Welcome to the channel, lovelies. Please like and subscribe. If you're just joining us, stop. Go watch part 1 right now. The link is in the description. Because what you're about to witness will not just confuse you. It will lose its weight completely if you don't understand what came before it. For everyone else who's been waiting, welcome back. When we left off, a 4-year-old girl, Jada Akeem walked up to a man no one dared approach and asked him a question no one had ever asked him before. Do you need help? That man was Park Seojin, the same man who forced her father to take the fall for a crime he didn't commit where he died, just months before coming home. And when the truth finally came out, it didn't end with revenge. It ended with something far more complicated. Forgiveness. Camila Akeem, the woman he had broken, looked him in the eyes and chose to let it go. Not for him, but for herself. She walked away with her daughter and left him with something far heavier than guilt. A second chance he did not deserve, and a distance he did not dare cross. And for 2 years, he didn't. No calls, no visits, just silence. And that should have been the end of it. But it wasn't, because 2 years later, Camila had been rebuilt, and she was good at it. Really good. She had moved and now had clients across California, now a freelance chef, a reputation that got her into kitchens most chefs spent their whole careers trying to enter, and a routine so tight it almost felt like peace. Almost. She just didn't let anyone in. Not because she was broken. She was clear about that. She wasn't broken. She was sealed. There's a difference. Broken people fall apart. And sealed people function perfectly and feel nothing and call it healing. Men tried. They always did. There was the sous chef in Napa who found every excuse to be near her station. The event planner who slipped his card into her jacket pocket like she wouldn't notice. She always noticed. She just never responded. There was something in her eyes that told people, without words, that they had reached the end of the available road. And most people, when they sense that, turn around. She almost texted someone once, got as far as typing his name, then deleted it, put her phone down, and went to prep her dough. The thing about forgiveness is that it gives you peace, but not certainty. She had forgiven Seojin, done the actual work of it, sat in therapy until the anger got tired and left. What remained wasn't love. It was just the absence of hatred, which felt huge when you'd been carrying so much of it, but it also left her with a question she hadn't figured out how to answer yet. What if I let someone in again and I'm wrong again? She didn't have an answer, so she kept the door shut. Jada was 6 now, and she saw everything. She noticed the long pauses after dinner, the quiet mornings, the way her mother's laughter came slower now, like it had to travel further to reach the surface. She didn't complain about any of it. She just watched and thought about it, and the conclusion she kept arriving at, no matter how many times she ran the numbers, was simple. Mama is okay, but okay and happy are not the same thing. She hadn't decided what to do about it yet, but she was getting close. On the other side of the country, a man was sitting in a very large, very quiet office and staring at a worn stuffed rabbit on his desk. Seojin had kept his word. 2 years, no calls, no appearances, no contact of any kind. Just distance, clean and total. He had used the 2 years well. Therapy every week. A therapist who didn't flinch and who had told him in their 4th session, "You confuse control with love, and you've been doing it so long you can't feel the difference." He'd sat with that for 3 weeks before admitting she was right. He restructured every business. His world was legitimate now, expanding, globally recognizable, and impossibly quiet. He hadn't expected the quiet to feel like this. He thought silence after chaos would feel like rest. Instead, it felt like absence. And late at night, he would sit at his desk and not quite look at the rabbit and think about a small, serious girl who had handed it to him like a peace treaty. Seojin had been invited to the restaurant in Monterey, same restaurant Camila was freelancing at the time. It was a private VIP event, a closing dinner for a real estate deal that Seojin had taken 18 months to close. He arrived early, settled into a corner of the lounge with a glass of water he wasn't drinking, and worked through his emails while waiting for his partners. He didn't know who was running the kitchen. Camila didn't know who was at the tables. Jada absolutely knew both of these things. She had insisted on coming. Her mother's sitter had cancelled last minute. She saw Seojin before he saw her. He was sitting at a corner table in the lounge and he was looking at his phone so engrossed he didn't notice anything else. She studied him from across the space for a long moment. He still looked like himself. He still looked like the man from the park, like someone carrying something that didn't have a name. Then she walked across the lounge. She was quiet about it, tiptoeing, very excited about the adventure in front of her. He didn't notice her until she was 2 feet away, and by then she had already decided what she was going to say. "Do you need help?" The effect was instantaneous and total. He looked up from his phone, and for one long second he didn't move, didn't breathe, and something crossed his face that he normally would have caught and contained before anyone could see it. But he didn't catch it this time. It moved through him like weather, visible and real, and it was only after it had passed that the control came back. She hugged him before he could say anything, just walked the remaining 2 feet, and put her arms around him the way children hug, completely, without strategy, without the self-consciousness that adults bring to physical affection. He held her back. His arms came around her, and he held on with a kind of careful, disbelieving pressure, like someone holding something they'd convinced themselves they'd lost and were now terrified of dropping again. For a moment, in the middle of a VIP lounge, with servers moving around them and deal-makers murmuring into their drinks, a very powerful man held a 6-year-old girl and forgot completely to maintain his composure. "Hi, Seojin," Jada said into his shoulder. "What are you doing here, Jada?" he said, and his voice came out different than he intended. Softer, more honest. She pulled back and looked at him. She looked at him the way she looked at her mother, with that particular attention, cataloguing, concluding. "You still look tired," she said, completely ignoring his question. "I'm not tired." "You always say that." He almost smiled. "I've said it exactly once." "That's already a pattern," she told him seriously, and then she climbed into the chair across from him like she'd been invited, folded her hands on the table and said, "Tell me something new." So he did. He told her about a building project in Seoul, which he simplified to building a very tall thing with glass in it, and she accepted this explanation and told him about her class, about a boy named Maverick who talked too much, or about how California was warmer than she expected, but that she still missed certain things. He listened the way he always had with her, fully, without the part of his brain that was usually managing the next 3 moves. She spoke and he listened, and it was the most uncomplicated he had felt in 2 years. Then she stopped talking and studied his face and said, "Have you come back for Mama?" He went very still. "Jada." "Because she thinks about it," she said, with the calm certainty of someone reporting observable facts. "She doesn't say it, but I know she does, and she still doesn't let anyone in." She tilted her head. "She talks like she's okay. She's not all the way okay." "That's not something I can fix," he said, and even as he said it, something in the sentence felt dishonest in a way he couldn't immediately locate. Jada considered this, then said, "You both look the same, just in different places." He opened his mouth. He wasn't sure what he was going to say, but then, from somewhere deeper in the restaurant, Camila's voice cut through the noise of the lounge, clear and loud, calling out for Jada, wondering where she went. "Yup, that's Mama, still as stern as ever, always looking out for me so I don't do something mischievous." Jada moved. She was already off her chair before Seojin registered what was happening, slipping back across the lounge with the smooth speed of a child who knew exactly how not to be noticed. "Jada," he said quietly. She paused, half-turned, and looked at him over her shoulder. "There's a park I like, Laurel Street near the fountain." She held his gaze. You should come. Promise me once again. And then she was gone, folding herself back into the edge of the room, and seconds later Camila spotted her in her seat that she wasn't in, a minute ago. Camila gave her a stern look before returning to the kitchen, completely unaware Seojin was in the same space as her. Seojin left immediately without having his meeting. He told himself he wasn't going to the park. He cancelled 2 meetings, rescheduled a call to Singapore, and for the first time in 2 years, he broke his own rule, the rule to never interfere with their life. He dug deeper into Camila's life. He spent 4 days looking at everything he had gathered about Camila's life in California. He told himself he was looking because he was concerned, because he needed to know she was genuinely okay, because this was due diligence and not obsession. He knew it was obsession. He did it anyway. What he found didn't comfort him. She had built stability with good work, respected clients, a clean, ordered life with no meaningful gaps. But there was no one. She had kept herself sealed with the same discipline. He had kept his distance. And looking at the patterns of her life laid out in front of him, he felt the specific dread of someone who looks at the consequences of their actions and has to sit with them without deflecting. "Did I ruin her?" he asked the empty room. The rabbit sat on his desk and did not answer. He went to the park. It was late morning on a Tuesday. Jada was there with a sitter, and Camila was working a private lunch event across town. He sat on a bench near the fountain and told himself he would leave in 10 minutes. Jada spotted him from 40 feet away and covered the distance with the efficiency of someone who had been expecting this. "You came," she said, sitting beside him. "I was in the area." She gave him a look that communicated, without words, that she found this answer beneath both of them. "Fine," he said, "I came. Because you were thinking about Mama." He tried opening his mouth to dispute that fact. She stopped him immediately, saying, "It's pointless lying to a smart kid." "I'm aware," he finally responded. "Then stop trying." She kicked her feet out in front of her, watching a pigeon investigate something near the fountain. "She's not going to get better at this on her own, you know. She thinks she is. She makes plans and structures and routines. But those aren't the same as being open." "No," he agreed quietly. You're not open either." "No." She turned to look at him directly. "You should be together." "Jada," he said it gently. "Your mother deserves better than me." She considered this for a moment with genuine seriousness. Then she said, "Then become better again." He looked at her. "You did it once," she said simply. "You built different businesses. You went to therapy, I'm guessing, because you seem less chaotic than before. You kept your word for 2 years. You gave us space, and you can kept building." She paused. "She's worth building for." He was quiet for a long time. The fountain moved. The pigeon found whatever it was looking for. "Even if I wanted to," he said finally, "which I'm not confirming, she would never agree to see me." A particular expression settled onto Jada's face. It was the expression of someone who has a plan and has been waiting for exactly this moment to deploy it. "That's my department," she said. "Jada, I'm serious. I've been thinking about this for a while." "How long?" "Since the restaurant." She paused. "Actually, since before that. I always thought you'd come back eventually." "You couldn't have known that." "I know people," she said simply, with a calm certainty that made him feel, briefly, that he was talking to someone much older than 6. She had her mother's eyes. He had always noticed that. He shook his head slowly. He looked at her, this small, brilliant, entirely dangerous child, and something that had been tightly held in him for 2 years loosened by a fraction, like a single bolt coming undone in a structure that had been braced too long. "All right," he said. And he didn't entirely know what he was agreeing to, but he said it anyway. Then something lighter moved through him. The ghost of an old feeling, something that used to live closer to the surface. "Tell you what, if you can actually pull this off, if you can make her fall in love with me, I'll give you $1 million. He said it the way you say something you expect to be received as a joke. Jada did not receive it as a joke. She turned to look at him with an expression of complete professional seriousness. "Deal," she said, "and I want a wire transfer when it's done, not a check." He laughed. It was a real laugh, not the polished, controlled kind, but the genuine kind that comes out surprised, the kind that sounds like it hasn't been used in a while because it hasn't. He laughed and she watched him laugh with the patient satisfaction of someone whose plan was already in motion. She was not joking. He would understand this later. She started the next morning. She didn't think of it as manipulation. She thought of it as engineering, which is a different thing. Manipulation serves itself. Engineering serves a purpose. Her purpose was clear. She began with small things because small things don't raise alarms. She mentioned to her mother, casually over breakfast, that she'd heard the farmer's market on Clement Street was supposed to have really good produce this weekend, which was true. She mentioned it 4 days in a row in 4 different conversational contexts, until it had moved from suggestion to fixture. And on Saturday morning, Camila said, without knowing she was being directed, "I need to stop by the market on Clement before my prep shift." Camila had a list. She worked through it efficiently, moving from stall to stall with her bag over one shoulder and her mind already halfway into the prep she needed to do before her evening shift. She turned the corner toward the tomato stall and stopped. Their eyes met. He was standing there, holding a tomato up like he was inspecting evidence. For a moment, neither of them moved. The market carried on around them. Vendors calling out prices, a child crying somewhere nearby, a man behind her apologizing for his stroller. The whole world completely unbothered. Then she started walking towards him, well, because she needed tomatoes. She reached the stall and picked one up without looking at him. He shifted slightly to give her space. They stood side by side and the silence between them was so full it was almost loud. "The ones on the left are better," he said. She looked at the ones on the left, put hers down, picked up one from the left. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome," he said. Neither of them looked at the other. A vendor 2 stalls down was laughing very loudly about something. It felt offensive. "You're in California," she said. "Business," he said. "Right." She picked up 2 more tomatoes. He still hadn't moved toward the payment point. She was aware of this and told herself she wasn't. "You look well," he said. She paused. "You said that like you rehearsed it." A beat. "Maybe I did." She turned and looked at him directly then, because she was not someone who had conversations with the side of a person's face. It was the first time in 2 years, and she had told herself it would feel like nothing. She had been wrong about that. He looked different, not older, just quieter, like something inside him had stopped pulling in 2 directions. "Are you?" she asked. "Am I what?" "Well," he considered the question like it deserved consideration. "Better than I was," he said. "Not all the way." She nodded. It was the kind of answer she hadn't prepared for. Too honest, too simple, nothing to push back against. "I have a prep shift," she said. "I know, I mean..." He stopped. "I didn't mean I know your schedule. I just meant..." "I understood what you meant," she said. Another silence. Somewhere behind her, a woman was haggling aggressively over the price of herbs. "It was good to see you," he said. She looked at him one more time. Something moved in her face. Not softness, but the awareness of a door. The fact that it still existed. "You too," she said quietly. She picked up her bag and walked away. She didn't look back, but when she reached into her bag for her keys, her hands were not entirely steady, and she stood at her car for 3 seconds longer than she needed to before she got in. She did not tell anyone about it. She drove home and prepped her dough and told herself it was coincidence. She believed this for 4 days. Then Jada mentioned a gallery. She said it over cereal on a Wednesday morning casually, that the new gallery in Hayes Valley was supposed to be a nice time out for them, that a friend's mum had gone and said the experience is to die for asking if wouldn't it be nice, just the 2 of them visit, reminding her that she always says they should do more of that together. Camila looked at her daughter across the table. Jada looked back with her most open expression. "Sure," Camila said slowly. "We can go." The drive to the gallery was quiet. Jada sat in the passenger seat looking out the window, and Camila kept her eyes on the road and tried to identify the feeling sitting in her chest. It wasn't dread. It wasn't hope. It was something more inconvenient than either. The feeling of someone who has kept everything very controlled for a very long time and senses, without knowing exactly why, that control is about to cost them something. He was already there when they walked in, standing in front of a large abstract painting, not really looking at it. She could tell the difference between Seojin looking at something and Seojin being somewhere. She had spent enough time watching him once to know the distinction. He turned when they entered, and the composure slipped for just a moment, the same way it had in the restaurant lounge, visible and real before it came back. She stopped walking. Jada kept walking directly toward the food table, because apparently she needed hors d'oeuvres immediately. He crossed to her, measured, unhurried, stopped at a distance that was polite and also somehow unbearable. "I didn't know you'd be here," he said. "You said that at the market too," she said. "Somebody keeps saying that to me." She walked away before he could respond, dragging Jada alongside, unable to process what was happening and why this man is now suddenly everywhere. Every time he appeared, he didn't push. He didn't try to be charming or impressive. He just showed up and was present and behaved like a person who had nothing to prove. At night, she thought to herself, who is this man now? She didn't ask it out loud, but she was thinking it, and thinking it was already more than she had given anyone in 2 years. Jada noticed. Of course she did. She noticed her little schemes forming a ripple in her mama little quiet ocean, and she was proud of herself. But what Jada did not notice was that Camila was also watching her, watching the way her daughter mentioned certain places, the timing of certain suggestions, the particular expression on her face when Camila came home from events that Seojin had also attended. A 6-year-old's poker face is only so good. One evening after dinner, Camila sat down across from her daughter and folded her hands on the table. Jada looked up from her drawing. Yes? The market on Clement Street. What about it? Jada set her pencil down slowly. The gallery in Hayes Valley, Camila continued. She looked at her daughter steadily. You want to explain any of that to me? Jada was quiet for a moment. Then she said, How did you know? Because I'm your mother, Camila said. And I'm not slow. Jada looked at the table, then back up. You were both lonely, she said simply. I just fixed it. You just fixed it, Camila repeated slowly. You weren't happy. He wasn't happy. And you both kept pretending you were fine, and it was... She searched for the word. Wasteful. Jada, you are 6 years old. I know. But I was right. That is not the point. Camila's voice was firm, but something underneath it was unsteady. You manipulated situations. You moved people around without telling them. You don't get to do that. Not to me, not to anyone. Do you understand? Jada looked at her. Yes, she said quietly. I'm sorry, Mama. Camila got up, cleared the table, and didn't say anything else. Later that night, Jada lay in the dark staring at the ceiling, and for the first time since she had started all of this, the confidence was gone. What was left in its place was smaller and more honest. What if I made it worse? She whispered to no one. She pulled her blanket up. She wasn't a genius tonight. She was just a little girl who wanted her mother to be happy and had no way of knowing, lying there in the dark. Whether what she had done was brave or just foolish. She hoped it was brave, but now she wasn't sure. Camila thought about what Jada said at the dinner table, about how she's been lonely, closing up on everyone because of her trauma. But what is really forgiveness if she doesn't let herself love again? And does it have to be with Seojin? She called him, not through Jada, not through a coincidence engineered by anyone. She found his number, sat with her phone for 10 minutes, and then called it before she could talk herself out of it. I need to talk to you, she said when he picked up. In person. When? He said. Tomorrow. Fillmore Restaurant. I'll be there. She hung up and sat in her kitchen and breathed slowly and told herself that saying a thing out loud didn't mean she had already decided anything. She was just talking. People could talk. He was already there when she arrived. She sat down and didn't take her coat off and looked at him directly. "I forgave you," she said. "I need you to know that. I did the work. It's real." "I know," he said, "and I don't take that lightly. But forgiving you didn't make trusting you easier." She kept her voice steady. "I thought it would. I thought once the anger was gone, there would be something clean underneath. But there wasn't. There was just," she paused, finding the exact word, "absence. And I built inside that absence. My work, my routines, Jada's life. I built something real." "You did," he said. "And when you started appearing again," she stopped, started again. "Every time I see you, I don't just see who you are now, I see everything I lost. And I see the version of myself that believed completely in something and was wrong." She looked at him. "I can't build something real with someone whose presence reminds me of what I lost. That's not your fault. But it's true." The silence that followed was the heaviest kind, the kind with a decision inside it. He looked at her for a long moment. Something moved across his face. Not argument, not deflection, just the quiet of someone absorbing something they have no right to dispute. "If being in your life reminds you of your hurt, then I shouldn't be in your life," he said. She looked up. "Not out of anger," he said. "I'm not walking away because I'm hurt. I'm stepping back because you just told me the truth, and the truth deserves respect." He held her gaze. "If being around me costs you more than it gives you, then the most honest thing I can do is go." She didn't say anything. "I mean it this time," he said quietly. "If this is the last conversation, then I'm grateful it was an honest one." He stood. He left money on the table for the water. And he walked out of the restaurant without looking back, and Camila sat there alone and felt something she hadn't expected to feel, like she had lost something twice. 3 evenings later, Jada came and sat next to her mother on the couch, not with a plan, not with a notebook, just herself, small and serious, hands folded in her lap. "Mama," Camila looked at her. "I'm still a little upset with you." "I know," Jada said. "I'm not here to fix anything. I just want to talk." She paused. "Can I talk?" Camila studied her daughter for a moment, then she leaned back against the cushions. "Go ahead," Jada took a small breath. "I'm sorry for what I did. The way I did it, moving you around without telling you, setting things up behind your back, that was wrong. Even if I thought I was helping, I didn't give you the choice, and you deserved the choice." She looked at her hands. "I'm sorry, Mama. Really." Camila was quiet. "But I want to tell you something else," Jada continued, "not to change your mind, just because I think it's true and I think you should hear it." She looked up. "You are the strongest person I know. You rebuilt everything. You made us a home and a life, and I never felt like we were missing anything real." She paused. "But Mama, I've watched you for 2 years turn away from every single thing that got close to your heart. Every person, every possibility. And I know why you did it. I understand why. But I think you started protecting yourself so hard that you forgot what you were protecting it for." Camila looked at her daughter and said nothing. "Your heart is not meant to be kept safe in a box," Jada said simply. "It's meant to be used. That's the whole point of it." She tucked her feet underneath her on the couch. "He's different now. I don't just think it. I watched him. He doesn't try to impress you. He doesn't perform. He just shows up and tells the truth even when the truth costs him something. That's not the same man, Mama. That's someone who did the work." Camila's jaw was tight. "You told me once that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared," Jada said. "It means you do the thing anyway." She looked at her mother steadily. "You're scared. That's okay. But don't let the fear make the decision for you. You're too smart for that." The room was quiet for a long time after that. "You're 6. Camila said finally, but her voice had lost its edge. I know, Jada said, but I'm right. Camila didn't answer. She reached over and pulled her daughter close and held her. And Jada let herself be held, and neither of them said anything else for a while. That night, Camila couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark and thought about every word her daughter had said, turned them over slowly, examined them from every angle the way she examined everything. And somewhere around 2 a.m, she stopped arguing with what she was feeling and just let herself feel it. She was scared. That was true. She didn't fully trust him. That was also true. But she was tired. Tired of the box. Was tired of the sealed life that was good and right and empty in the one place that mattered. She picked up her phone. She was at the park on Laurel Street before she'd fully decided she was going. She texted him when she got there, and he arrived 12 minutes later and sat on the bench across from her, not next to her because he understood distances now. I'm not here to take back what I said, she told him. I know, he said. Everything I said was true. I know that too. She looked at the fountain. But I've been thinking. She stopped, started again. What if I let you in and everything breaks again? He didn't answer immediately. He sat with the question the way it deserved to be sat with. Then it breaks, he said finally. I can't promise you it won't. Anyone who makes you that promise is lying. He turned to look at her. What I can tell you is this. Don't trust who I was. I was someone who didn't know the difference between holding on and holding down. I don't want you to trust that man. He paused. Trust who I've been every single day since. Trust the 2 years of distance I kept even when it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Trust the conversation I just walked away from because you asked me to. That's all I've got. No grand gestures. Just that. She looked at him for a long time. I'm still afraid, she said. I know. I don't fully trust you yet. I know. But She stopped. The words sat in her chest for a moment before she let it out. I'm willing to try. That's all I have right now. I don't have certainty. I don't have a plan. I just have willing. He nodded once. Slowly, like someone receiving something carefully. Willing is enough, he said. Willing is more than enough. She nodded. And for the first time in 2 years, she didn't press the warmth in her chest back down. She let it stay, small and unsteady and real. What came after that was not a movie. There was no single moment where everything shifted and the music swelled and the fear dissolved. It was slower than that, and more honest than that, and better than that. They had coffee twice a week. Not dinners. Coffee public, 60 minutes, no pressure. He asked about her work and meant it. She asked about his and listened. There were silences that were awkward and silences that were comfortable and slowly, without either of them marking the exact moment it happened. The awkward ones became fewer. She laughed at something he said one afternoon. A real laugh. The kind that came out surprised, and then caught herself and looked away, and he pretended not to notice, and she was grateful for that. Jada watched all of it from a careful distance. She didn't engineer anything. She didn't suggest any locations or manipulate any schedules. She just watched her mother come home from coffee looking slightly less sealed each time, watched the long pauses at the kitchen window get shorter, watched something that had been hibernating for 2 years, slowly, carefully waking up. She kept her notebook in her drawer and didn't open it. She didn't need it anymore. They were choosing it themselves now. That was the whole point. 6 months passed quietly, without announcement. Then a year. Then the kind of ordinary life that doesn't look like much from the outside, but feels, from the inside, like exactly enough. Sun dinners at home, Jada's school events, Saturday markets where nobody was being engineered toward anything. Just 3 people building something at the pace it needed to be built. One evening they were all at the table together. Camila was laughing at something Seojin had said about his meeting in Seoul. He was laughing too. The real kind, the kind that had started coming easier, The kind of dinner that doesn't feel like a milestone, but is one anyway. Jada sat across from them both, watching. Then she set down her fork, folded her hands on the table, and looked at Seojin with the expression of someone who has waited a very reasonable amount of time and is now ready to conduct business. "So," she said, "about my $1 million. Seojin choked on his water. Camila turned to look at him slowly. "I'm sorry. It was," he coughed, "a joke. I thought it was a joke. You made a deal with a 6-year-old, Camila said. I didn't think she was serious." Jada looked at him with the calm patience of a woman twice his age. "That sounds like a you problem." "Jada, a deal is a deal," she said simply. "I have witnesses. I am one of the witnesses." Camila pressed her lips together. She was absolutely not going to laugh. She was not. "I'll set up the wire transfer," Seojin said with the specific defeat of a man who has lost completely and knows it. "Thank you," Jada said. She picked up her fork and went back to her dinner with the serene satisfaction of someone whose business affairs were in order. Camila finally laughed, a real one, wide open, the kind that filled the room. Seojin looked at her laughing, and something in his face went quiet, satisfied looking at the thing they were building toward all along. Jada noticed. She always noticed, but she didn't write it down. Some things you just let be. A year after that dinner, the house was different. Fuller, slower in the mornings. There was a room being repainted down the hall. Camila moved through the kitchen with her hand resting briefly on the counter, the way people touch things they are grateful for. Seojin sat on the back porch one quiet evening, watching the last of the light go down, and he looked like someone who had finally stopped waiting for the peace to leave. Jada came and sat beside him. She looked at him the same way she had looked at him years ago in a VIP lounge when he was a sad man sitting alone in a crowd. She studied his face with that particular attention of hers, cataloguing, concluding. "Well," he said. She tilted her head, considered. Then she smiled, small and certain, the smile of someone whose project had concluded exactly as planned. "I'm pretty sure," she said. "You've got all the help you need." He looked at her for a moment. Then he smiled back, the real kind. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think I do. And that's it, lovelies. Some people wait their whole lives for the right person to find them." Camila didn't wait. She rebuilt, she sealed herself up tight, and she told herself that was enough. Seojin didn't wait either. He kept his word, did the work, and sat alone in the quiet of everything he'd fixed, wondering why it still felt empty. And then a 6-year-old with a notebook, a plan. And absolutely no respect for the word impossible, decided that 2 people she loved were being ridiculous and took matters into her own hands. This story was never really about romance. It was about what happens when someone who loves you refuses to let you give up on yourself. And sometimes that someone is small enough to fit in your lap and wise enough to embarrass you in front of everyone. If this moved you even a little, subscribe, because this channel exists for stories like this one, the kind that remind you that the best things in life don't just happen to you. Sometimes they require a 6-year-old, a wire transfer, and the courage to try one more time.